Welcome to Brand Your Dream Show, my friends. Today we're talking with Jay Rombach. He is a reinvention architect and he's going to share with us how to reinvent yourself, how to manage your emotions, how to use your own strengths to find the vision, to find your true self. Hi, Jay. How are you doing?
Oh, very, very well. Thank you. And thanks for the having me on your show.
That's fantastic. Tell us a little bit more about how you come to this conclusion, how you become the reinvention architect.
Yeah, sure. After more than 30 years as a human resources executive in the corporate world, I found myself out of a job for the first time. And that was due to the pandemic, as the industry I was in essentially just closed down. And so I was at a point where after all these years, what do I do? I was tired, a little bit burnout or a lot burnout, but not wanting to retire. So what do I do? And so as I went through this journey and connected the dots back, I said, I just reinvented myself. In fact, not only that, I'm reinventing myself every day. So as a human resources executive and helping coach people in careers and coaching leaders in how to lead better, how to lead teams, and so on, I decided to use my expertise and help others on the path to reinvention and learn from my story and also from my expertise, because there's a lot of people, especially since the pandemic, that are looking for a fresh start, looking to break away from what was to become the best of who they can be still. And it's never too late to reinvent yourself. And so I've focused on serving that market, and it's a great journey of just gratitude, of helping, and just helping people find the next path.
That is amazing. And I love that you say that the journey, the new jump, the reinvention, the fresh start, it's amazing. So speaking about this, usually the first question on this podcast is all about visibility. And I know that especially in time of pandemic, there are plenty of people in corporates and plenty of people in entrepreneurial world who had to become more visible online and show up on video, on Zoom calls. Nobody knew before that how to use it. As entrepreneurs and online coaches, we did use these tools like forever. And then it was really interesting when everybody suddenly like, oh my God, what is it? What's going on? So the fact of visibility is definitely affected many people, and that necessity, the new skill which you need to learn, wasn't taken lightly by many people. So what do you think, as a reinvention architect, how people can reinvent themselves and become more visible and feel good about that, feel positive?
Yeah, a great question. The whole concept of reinvention is really breaking away or breaking out of the patterns of your past that no longer serve you, right? And so to answer your question, there are people that were accomplished professionals, years of success, and then things happened. Like in my case, circumstances happen beyond their control. And so the first thing to do is typically, okay, let's ask my friends and my coworkers and all these people I've worked with, do you have anything for me? Can you help me find something? And so you're connecting with the people that you already know. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great starting point. But your question really gets at the evolution of now marketing and visibility, which is you have to break away from or beyond what you know to something that you don't know. And in this case, it's how to get visibility in today's world when there's so much noise. There's so many people out there trying to make a name for themselves, trying to sell their wares, market their wares, and things like that. And then also to your point, more and more, at a very high percentage, people have gone online to start businesses because they are in a state where things have changed and they no longer want to do or can do or whatever what they used to do. And so they're more and more going online and having to learn this skill, but it's breaking away from the people you know and gaining visibility and being open and I guess courageous in a lot of ways because you're putting yourself out there to meeting people you don't know. that need to learn about you, your product, what you do, and the value that you offer. Therein lies, in today's world, success.
Mhm. It's interesting because I remembered while once you were mentioned people who struggling because they changed their career, I realized that I know plenty of people who are quite young. They probably didn't start the full force career. They maybe had a first job or something, so just not established. And they still have this idea of visibility, the minimum visibility. Many young people really who are not on Instagram, I think we all have perception as older people that all the young people are on Instagram and super active. It's not true. So there are plenty of young people who are not on LinkedIn, not on Instagram, barely anywhere, maybe on YouTube watching something, yes, but not necessarily they are present there.
Right.
So thinking about that, how we can build the visibility muscle if we didn't build it yet. Let's say if the person is not yet have that success in career, because I think there are two types of people who I'm talking to. Most of the time I speak to experts, and as you mentioned, they are experts, they have something to say, and it's a very different story. And many times those are people who shift from one type of career to another, or just from study to entrepreneurship, and they have no background. So some background is there, but they really have they have no background to jump into that visibility. So how do you think we can build this visibility muscle? What is needed to be in you to show up confidently?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things, and really, that is a great question. It's facing so many people, right? So, really, it's about, again, being open-minded to what the environment is today and how to gain visibility today. So, the first thing is just to overcome uncertainty and the unknown. Oh, social media. You mean I have to get out there and show myself and post things? I mean, I'm not used to that. I'm posting things with my friends and my family. Now I'm posting myself. So there's this uncertainty around it. And there tends to be apprehension around that as a general rule. I mean, there's exceptions, but as a general rule, right? So it's getting over that uncertainty and being willing to try new things. And then the fundamentals just matter, right? So the fundamentals of being, okay, who are you trying to serve? And before that, what are your expertise? What are the gifts? I mean, you've worked, you've established yourself, you are the CEO of you. So what is it? And through my process, I help them reconnect. Like it's the second phase of my model, which is refocus. You refocus on the unique gifts and talents that you have, right? And get very clear on those. And so to break into this uncertainty of social media and the visibility of today, just post one thing, a quote, a statement, share an article that shows your expertise, right? In the gifts that you have. And do this small and start in little ways. And it's not this big thing that you have to have all this fancy website and all this kind of stuff. Everything's there. You just start small and get comfortable with it. Once you define what your gifts are, what problems you can solve with your gifts, and where are those people? Right? If it's Instagram, if it's LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, like you said, I mean, there's different platforms for different needs. You find out where your customers or potential clients are, right? So it really is that. It's just getting comfortable with the medium, being courageous enough to say, okay, I've got this growth mindset and I'm going to try it, right? I'm going to get out there. I realize that, again, it's what I said before. It's not who you've known. It's getting visibility and helping people know you who you have not met yet, right? And so how do you start that in a small way? So start small, and then you find out you have knowledge, you have wisdom. Put it out there. And if you put it out there consistently, people are going to start to notice and understand who you are and what you offer.
All right. So speaking about this, let's get to the authenticity. And I know that many people, and I heard it from younger people, but I think elder people also feel the same. maybe we are more resilient and we not share that much, but younger people for sure shared a few times that they're not really comfortable to shop even without filter or something like that. So when we talk about how to write the message or create the message or, oh my God, go on video, people feel uncomfortable because they don't know how to be themselves on camera. And especially when they see the promotion from coaches, when coaches click their own photos with their own family, and most of the time these are beautiful pictures, especially if coaches are established and they hire some professional photographers, images look stunning and stuff like that. And you're like, oh my God, I never will be there. My body is like, fatter than the standards, like 3 times more. And like, my skin is not that perfect, like, whatever they have on that beautiful photos. And, they have beautiful children, ideal husband, and few fluffy dogs, which are also picture perfect. And oh my God, how can I show up? How can I can allow to be myself? So what do you think about authenticity in this journey of reinvention?
I think it's really everything. And what you said is 100% true. And what makes it even more difficult being authentic is that we're in a society now, and especially in a work environment where there's multiple generations. And there are generations of senior leaders, and I'm overgeneralizing here, but it's a very important point and it's very real, is that the senior leaders in the generation of the Gen X, the baby boomers, are still in the workplace today. And their expectation is you're going to toe the line, you're going to do as you're told, you're going to follow direction, right? And you're going to do like we've always learned to do. And you're going to be the company person and loyal to the company and so on. The generations after, the younger generations, millennials and now Gen Zs, think differently, right? But they are apprehensive or even afraid, as you mentioned very correctly, because they're not sure of the repercussions or the impacts of that. So it's a very, very important thing. What I do in my work and the people that I talk to and meet on a day-to-day basis is you have to start with believing in yourself and being very clear on who you are and and what you offer and what you can do. Be very clear there first. And then there's techniques that are, well studied. Well, there's experts in the field. I certainly educate as much as I can on this about learning how to be authentic in a very multiple generational expectation type of environment. And you can spend a whole day on a podcast on that particular topic. But I believe it really starts with you and being very clear on who you are and reaching the point through either coaching help or self-study or just help from a support network to be comfortable to say, that is more important to me, to show up who I am in what's real to me, as opposed to worrying so much about how I show up to others and how others perceive me. Because when that becomes the main thing, you become inauthentic. You become you try to come across and show up, whether it's a podcast like this or whatever, like you think someone else wants you to be. And that's where this whole thing of authenticity or inauthenticity comes into play. And it's a big, big deal right now because where we're heading, and that is the younger generations, as the older generations will start to retire, is that it's about, okay, I want these things for me. I want to grow. I want to become better. I want to add value. I want to be part of something that gives me meaning, that promotes what I believe in and my causes. And those are all the things that are pure authenticity, and they're required. And so it's as difficult as it may be, and again, it could take a whole day to teach this, but it's important work for anybody that's on this path, is that learn very clearly the gifts that you have. I call them gifts. Some people call them skills and, all those. I call them gifts because they are ours, or uniquely ours. Maybe they're similar to what other people have, but we present them and use them in a unique way. What clearly are those? And then believe in yourself just enough to say, this is how I'm going to show up. This is who I am. And if people don't like it or disagree or don't connect with me, that's not part of my tribe. That's not part of my connection that's going to help me or who I can help in the future. It's very difficult. And you raise a really, really good point, but it is so, so important. We've got to move away from what others expect and be really who we are. And one last thing on this is that the corporate environment, the corporations, the people that work for others in corporations, right, are so ingrained in becoming who that company expects them to be or wants them to be. And they can have a great experience with the company or not. It's like, that's me. I work for this company. These are the people, these are the principles, these are the values. And what happens is that becomes your identity many ways. And this is so, so important, especially in part of my work, to disconnect them from that and get back to what I call the essence of you and your authenticity. Sorry for the long answer, but it's a critical point and a great question. And to me, it's the key to becoming who you're meant to become.
It will be longer because I want to elaborate on it. It's really important topic, and probably it can become incredibly uncomfortable, especially in the modern society, because I think this idea which you shared, that we try to impress other people and try to do something so that people like us instead of being ourselves. So we afraid that if we will be ourselves, if we will be as we are, people will not like us. And perhaps it's usually come with experience, it's usually come from bullying and trauma and all the things. So it's never happened just on a plain place. Most of the time it can happen like we observe that somebody tried, but they were bullied or they were traumatized or something like that. Yeah. So thinking about that, there is also another part of this coin, when if we choose to be like ourselves and then we choose to be as we are, that means that we're no longer going to progress, we're no longer going to change anything, because we put ourselves into this framework. We say, okay, let's say I'm overweight and I'm going to be there, I'm going to do nothing about that and things like that. So it's a very tempting to me personally, to stay in the state of overweight. I'm like, yeah, let me eat more ice cream. Amazing. I'll be myself. I will just enjoy who am I. Fantastic. But at the same time, I figured out with age, to be honest, it's experience of many, many years of accepting myself as ice cream. This experience, come handy in time, because I realized that I need to do something about the weight. I need to do something about my health. Especially with age, you start caring a lot more about your health, because you understand that you need to be healthy as long as it's possible. So thinking about that, I understand that I can accept myself exactly as I am. And I can say that, okay, my body is perfect. This is all perfect. I need to do nothing about that. But what I realized, that self-love is a lot of discipline. And self-love is a lot of things which we deny to do rather than we do to ourselves. So self-love is not buying the best ice cream, little beautiful wine, and cook the best dinner every single day and buy every single thing which you like in the shop, which I can and apparently did. But actually to reduce the food, probably go on some difficult hiking, put yourself in challenges where you feel challenged, but you overcome something and then you grow. And then you understand that that sense of self-love is very different than sense of love when you just please yourself with some kind of nice indulgent things. So thinking about that, I think it's a big dilemma for a younger generation nowadays to accept themselves like they are and do nothing, which I saw a lot on video on YouTube and things like that, or really choose a more difficult path, but at the same time to be almost like outcast, because not many people choose that more difficult, challenging path when you challenge yourself. And you do it without judgment. You don't do it because like, oh my God, I look terrible, I look fat or something like that. I have to do something about that and I stop eating. No, I'm pretty much okay with that, how I look. It's just like, let me try to improve the situation and feel better and things like that. So I use some intermediate fasting or, stuff which are quite healthy or walking. So what do you think in terms of authenticity? How to recognize when we are on this right path towards authenticity, or when we don't really recognize ourselves or accept ourselves? So I think it's a little bit challenging. So what is your view on it?
Sure. I mean, it's very challenging. It really is. And look, I understand. I could sit here and say, believe in yourself first and be clear on who you are. I understand how difficult that can be. It was difficult for me, and the way I was raised is to not put myself out there, to follow to follow the steps and be in compliant and be a good guy, but just stay in your lane, right? And so I get it. So, but there's a lot of things to unpack in there. First and foremost is I also share your love for ice cream, just for the record. Okay, so I do that. So, all right. So, and what's really, really scary, Eve, is that the statistics we're hearing about young people and thinking of taking their own life and how that's raised and how remarkable in a very scary way those statistics are. And, I know people are quick to say it's because of social media and comparing themselves to others and these body images and all that kind of stuff. And it may be. I believe there has to be a lot more research done before you jump to that conclusion. But there's a couple of things that are absolute truths, right? One is that self-doubt, self-critic, the imposter syndrome is a common word. Everybody has it. Everyone. Okay. And so the people you see in the public eye who you would dispute, say, they don't have imposter syndrome. Look at that. They're just like, they're the ones that have it the most. Okay. So there's some absolute truths there. So putting yourself out there is hard, right? And it takes a lot of strength, and you would get the help that you would need. I would advise anybody to get, whether it's a coach, whether it's a therapist in more in extreme cases, support networks. Surround yourself with the people that believe in you and support you, who you are. And you start there. So you got clarity around who you are. You have a support network of people that believe in you for who you are and support you for who you are. And then you go out and you represent yourself in the best way you are. So if you're thinking about body image, if it's a body image issue and you want to make change, you can make the choice to change, right? Even if it's not to become a thin person or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's not about body image, race, gender, or anything. It's how you choose to show up in your authentic self and have the courage. You'll hear me mention courage a lot, because it takes a lot of courage to go and say, okay, I know that I may be criticized or I may be judged. In fact, I likely will be. But it's important to me and who I am to put myself out there, because the people who I will connect with, who will help me, who I will help on this journey of life and work and all that comes with it, these are the ones that'll stick with me. And the ones that will judge and will not, then that's their choice. I do not subscribe to the well wishes of other people, or the well opinions of other people is a better way to say it, right? Certainly we subscribe to the better wishes of other people as long as they're authentic. So we have our support network. So it's a very challenging thing, but we can make choices. And what's important is to show up who we are in a thing that we're comfortable in our own skin, because this is who we are. And if that's our body image, if this is our belief, if this is what our vocation is and what our cause is, I stand behind that, because that's who I am. And it does take courage, because there's all going to be people judging you and things. But it really is, at the end, you can go and gravitate towards the people who judge you and change, because their version of you wants you to change, but this is who I am, right? And so on. So it's a great question. Again, one of those that we can talk for several episodes. And I would just say this to the audience: it is hard. I recognize that. It will never be easy.
Yeah.
However, if you believe in yourself and you're clear on who you are and what you stand for, and you have your support network identified, and you distance yourself from people who don't support you. And I know sometimes it's not always possible when family's involved and things like that, but you can still create boundaries that work for you. And once you have that and then you go forward, that's the best way to do it. But it still takes that courage of risk. It says, okay, I'm going to put myself out there, and there may be some people that don't agree with me or look at me differently or look at me unfavorably because of who I am. And then we have to be comfortable enough in our own skin to say, that's okay. That's okay. You can't be liked or want to be liked by everyone. You want to be liked by the people that support you and believe in what you do.
The next question will be slightly tricky, like most of the questions which I ask.
Thanks for the warning.
I love to learn, so that will be the question which I would like to learn from you, something from your experience. So thinking about this, the community part, and I know that many coaches suggested that find this supportive community, and we start this conversation with discussion about the networking and stuff like that. So what I realized in my personal life, for example, I'm going to be 46. I don't have kids and things like that. So it was a particular health issues, not a choice. But I was looking for different communities because occasionally it's obviously caused a lot of trauma for me. And I was looking for the community of people who don't have kids after 46. I joined the community and I looked at very, very depressive conversations on like, oh my God, they're all struggling and things like this. And I quit the community like the next moment I was accepted because it was really depressing community. They tried to support each other, but it was really a community where people did try to struggle together. So I was like, no, thank you. It's not where I want to be. Now, the next community was, we don't have kids after 46, but we are happy because it's our choice. I joined that community and they were like, cheering about things, but it was really not authentic because half of the time I could see that they come from that previous community for the same reason as I, because the other one was too depressive. So they tried to pretend that they're very happy, but it didn't work out. So it was really interesting because occasionally you can see the conversations where they move to a very different direction. So I left that community either because I was like, whatever, I will deal on this on my own. The things like I told you when I'm from Ukraine in evacuation, and when I do try to find the job for the contract to rent something, I mean, I still didn't find anything because nobody supports you. And I don't think this is like below my dignity to work in some places to clean some toilets. So I'm like, thank you very much. I will better back to Ukraine. So things are like, sometimes we are not really supported. So it's true. And it's like, an elephant in the room, which we need to address, because it's nice to say, find supportive community, be courageous, tell them that you have a problem. Well, it doesn't work many times. So if that's the case, and we will consider that I'm not most depressive person in the world who is like, can't find the community of supportive people. It's just like there's plenty, but I am the only person who couldn't find. So let's keep that part. I think that I can find any communities because I'm in all of them. So think about that, how people can support themselves if they are in the circumstances, as you start saying about the family not supporting them, or they don't have enough of, they can't find enough of people yet online who can support them. Or maybe some people, like I feel comfortable with friends online all around the world, but many people, they need to have friends like, in person, and they, for example, live in a small town or something, and they can't find this community. So such cases are existent, so to say. So thinking about this, how people can support themselves.
Yeah. Again, there's a lot to delve into in that question, and I appreciate it. A couple of principles that I believe in, and I'm going to give a shout out to one of the authors and speakers that I greatly admire, Seth Godin, Godin, and he is famous, at least to me, in saying that your tribe is your tribe. Your tribe is who believes in what you believe in, buys what you have to sell, right? And is in the community that is really, really supportive. And he says, your goal is to be part of a tribe that believes in you and that supports what you do, even if that tribe is 10 people or 5 people. So to address your question, the support networks that I'm referring to are very small by nature. So they're so I understand the communities and want to be a part of communities of like people that maybe didn't have kids, like you said, and all that. I get all that, but there's also the true in the adage of, in many ways, misery loves company. So it's a way to kind of like have discussion and have kind of woe is me kind of thing. And I say that with all, due respect, but there is groupthink and all the biases that come into the things that we deal with every day, right? What I'm talking about is authenticity within your tribe. And it may not be a family member. It may not be somebody you know at the moment, but there is someone out there, and there's people out there. You just have to keep at it, putting yourself out in an authentic way so you attract the people that see you and say, that's someone I can work with or someone I want to get to know, right? But still, you may know a lot of people, but your supportive network is going to be very, very small. So that's how I would answer that: is don't, be after the masses and having all the friends and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that you can't be friends to everyone. You dilute yourself and you become largely an ambivert, which is kind of, you flex to any type of way, which is really not authentic. And ultimately, I mean, you can certainly flex when you need to and things like that based on who you're talking to and things, but ultimately it's your tribe and what you believe in. So again, it goes back to the common denominator, which is understanding clearly who you are, what you believe in, right? Why, right? And then connecting with people who believe that, even if it's 2 people to start, 1 person, to start and to be part of the community. Okay, if you can choose to do that kind of thing, you certainly want to support people and offer to help. In fact, I think that's another way to answer your question is look first for who you can help that is aligned with your thinking or is open-minded enough to listen and learn from who you are and what you are thinking, right? And then how can I help that person? How can I solve that problem? How can I be part of that solution that lifts somebody else up, right? And so if you do that and take that approach with who you authentically are, be surprised that it's not going to be like people knocking down your door and flooding your emails with invite lists, but that's okay. It's you start with, again, who your tribe is, however small that is. And when you do good work and you are a helpful person that gives as much as takes, you'll find that your community will grow.
I love the fact that you mentioned this giving approach, because many times when we hear about communities, many of us think that we get into the community, we start communicating to people. Let's say it's network, let's say it's club, let's say it's disco dancing, I don't know, any kind of group that you have to get in. You will feel awkward occasionally if you are not that extroverted kind of person who can feel everywhere comfortable. So like you will feel probably strange. And then you think like, oh my God, how they will become your friends and stuff like that. So it's a lot come from the victim mentality and from the idea that we need to approach someone to support us, which means we come from the asking position. And that what you say, the giving position is way, way stronger, because if you get to the group of people and you say, okay, what can I give you guys? You know, how can I treat you? That remove all the awkwardness. It's actually help people to connect, because they're like, they may not ask anything, but they can see that you are not asking, you are not begging, you are not needy. And this is when you start building genuine relationships. This is a very, very good remark which you mentioned. This is fantastic. So thinking about this, what are your best 3 tips for people to reinvent themselves?
Okay. Yes. First and foremost, what I strongly believe and endorse, you want a fresh start. You have to start inside of yourself. You have to understand the emotions that are driving your thoughts, your decisions. We all have them. The point is not to avoid them, is to understand them. Understand the emotions and be able to manage what we call transition. So transition is going from one thing to another, and we do it a lot in our lives. We transition to different jobs. We transition from university to work. We transition from high school to university. We transition from single to married. All different things are transitions along the way, right? To manage those transitions, again, it starts with inside of you and what I call the essence of you, reconnecting with the essence of you. That's the first tip. Understand what drives you, the person, the aspirations, the passions that you've had since the beginning of your days back in life. And may not, not all of them will be appropriate now or relevant or even of interest to you, but you'll begin to really rediscover. In fact, that's the first phase of my model, is rediscover the essence of you. You'll rediscover the aspirations, the dreams, and what I really want out of life. And you reconnect with that outside of all this noise. So that's the first thing to do. The second thing, that for my first tip. The second tip is what I call leverage. So when you connect with the essence of who you are and be very clear on your unique gifts and talents, like I've said before, right? That becomes your leverage when you start making decisions and start moving forward based on your unique talents and who you are. What happens is that so often, if we're in need of a job or if we're in need of a relationship or anything that we're kind of searching for, we tend to look to the outside. Okay, what's the next job that's posted out there? Who's the next one I can meet on the dating site or circuit? It's like that's kind of what I call our default system. It's what we naturally do because that's how we've been taught. That's how we've learned from our elders and things like that. I want a new job. I'm unhappy. I'm going to go get another job. All right. So I say tip number 1, start within you and be clear on, and all the things that I spoke about. And then the second phase is you refocus on really the best of who you really are. And that becomes your leverage. Because if you go look for that first job that you find, that job description looks perfect for me, or, this situation looks perfect for me, you're basing it on their leverage, not yours. Nirvana the ideal is that what that job or this is for the example, a job offers is 100% aligned with what my value is and the gifts that I bring. And you know what? When you go in for an interview, you're interviewing them as much or more than they're interviewing you, because you're going to make sure that you're able to use your leverage. I mean, what a shame we get into, especially after we've had a success in our career. We get into a situation, another job, that we find out we're not even using our talents. We're not doing it, and it's become, we're right back into that cycle of, just the day-to-day, mundane, routine. Nope, that's not our passion and those kinds of things, right? So that's the second, is to is to the tip. And then the third one is to reimagine the future, right? And so what's so important on that is that, another author I'd like to mention is Benjamin Hardy. He's written this book called the 10X. 10X is better than 2X. You 10 times your advancement to the future based on the vision of where you're going. Where so many people do incremental change, or what he calls 2X, 2 times or 1 time you're by trying to improve on what you've done in the past, right? So if you just try to improve on where you've been in the past, you're not taking into account on where you're going. So the third tip I would have is to reimagine the future based on your leverage, based on the essence of who you are, and what truly you can be and you can offer, and what value you can give, and be open-minded different ways to do that, whether that's a job, whether that's volunteer work, a franchise, owning your own business, a non-for-profit, all kinds of things you can do that doesn't involve just applying for a job online. It may, to be fair, but those are the 3 tips I would have. And I believe strongly that if you reconnect with the essence of you, who you are personally, and what drives you and motivates you and the meaning you have, refocus with your talents, your unique gifts, and then reimagine based on the future in 10 times your results, as opposed to just taking what you've done in the past and making incremental change.
I love it because, it's an interesting thing. We really need to reinvent ourselves, I think, all the time. So at least once in a quarter or something like that, because, we progress. And I personally, as I work with personal brands and I help people to understand how to show up, I tell them that they need to understand their value. And in fact, our programs are very similar. That's what I see. Yeah. But you help people to reinvent, I help people to build brands, different purpose, but very similar methods. I can recognize that. So what I tell them that when they build a brand, they need to understand their values, because this is something which doesn't change. This is constant idea. And then around these values, they revolve, they change, they do something else, they change the jobs and things like that. So it's really powerful to find the leverage, as you say, the strengths, the power of the value. Now, thinking about that, do you think that people need to self-assess often to find when it is the right time to reinvent themselves? I mean, we don't need to wait until some circumstances change and life will become so dramatic that we probably will not have resources to reinvent. So probably it's better to do it in more peaceful times. So what is a self-assessment method which you can recommend so that people come up with that conclusion that they need to start the next round of reinvention?
Yeah, well, I'm glad that we think so much alike and are similar in our business, because you actually answered the question there. We are reinventing ourselves all the time, whether we think we are or not. It says, oh, no, I've been the same for 5 years. Okay, go back 5 years very specifically, and what were you doing on a day-to-day basis? And then go to today and look at what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. You may not see it till you look at that perspective. There's been change, right? So you're constantly reinventing yourself, right? And so what I would say, and spin what your question and response was, is that do it by intentionally. So that, it's not that you kind of like, I have to reinvent myself. It's not that. It's staying true to yourself, reconnecting and saying, okay, am I staying true to my values and my principles and my beliefs? Do they need to change? Maybe my beliefs were based on something of my family 40 years ago. That was the best that situation was. That was my belief at the time. But you know what? That belief may not be true. It may no longer serve me. So it's just kind of a reassessment and kind of this, and it almost becomes natural. It's when you get into this thing, so this mindset is that you're not just saying, okay, I need to reinvent myself now. You're always going in a way of reflection, adjustment, reflection, adjustment, and or not. Maybe you're doing okay, but be honest with yourself and be courageous enough to say, okay, am I truly living to this value I'm telling everybody that I value or want to show? Right. So that's the way I would answer that. Do it by intention, because change is going to happen to you whether you want it or not, whether you think it's going to happen or not. So it's best to have that, that resilience, that muscle, that muscle that says, okay, I know myself deeply, what I believe in, but I'm also open-minded enough to say what maybe I need to let go of, because what was once true for me is no longer serving me, or is no longer helping me advance to the person I deserve to become, and having the courage to let that go. So doing that by intention, I think, is really, really so important. So you're out in front of it and you're reinventing yourself almost every single day, but at least in terms of your mindset.
I love it. And I honestly think that, for many people, they can absolutely benefit from talking to an expert like yourself to understand where they are, because many times we just need that external person to see where we are. So how people can connect with you and probably book the call.
Yes. Go to my website. Thank you for that. My website's my name, jayrombach.com. It's there behind me. And you can go there. You can book a free call. I offer advisory services in the field of, performance, leadership, and all those disciplines around, not only making yourself better as a leader, but making others better because you're a better leader. So it's coaching, it's learning resources, and so on. But I'll be happy to talk to anybody about their situation. And like you said too, what's so important is that I talk to people a lot smarter than me. They just need a different perspective. They need a different way to look. And they have to be open-minded. Here's that word courageous again, because courage means letting go of something you've been doing your entire life if it no longer serves you. Okay? If I was leading people with an iron fist and I've been successful my entire career, I'm going to continue doing that. That's wrong thinking, because the generation of people that more and more you're managing don't believe that. And they're going to go somewhere else where they've got someone that actually cares about them and asks how they're doing, right? So I would need the courage to let that go. So I just offer a different perspective and a way to look at things, that I truly believe in this concept of reinvention, but it starts internally. Reinvention is not the next relationship. It's not the next job. If you reinvent yourself truly and deeply, and the core of who you are, the job, the relationships, the things in life will tend to go your way.
Absolutely love it. Thank you so much for this interview. I hope people will connect with you. The links will be somewhere here on the screen and in the description below of the podcast and of the show. And thank you so much for all these tips. It was really amazing.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me.